There we go. How's that? How's that? The the computer turned its audio off on me like it does. All right. I hate when it does that. Thank you for letting me know. All right. Instagram is live. Substack. Let's go to Substack so I can see the Substack comments. All right. Substack is hopefully live. We shall see. StreamYard is live. All right. Welcome, guys. Give me a second here. Just let's see if I can figure out how to get Substack to show up. Substack, don't be evil. There we go. There's Substack. Okay. There we go. One person on Substack. Hello, Substacker. All right. This is good. This is good. StreamYard. I think we're almost set. There we go. And now I'm going to get YouTube, TikTok started, and we're good. There we go. Bam. All right. I think I got stuff. I think I got it working today, which is good. Wow. Okay. This was fun. This is very fun. Trump's tariffs are toast. Absolutely hilariously funny. Put my light on. There we go. Get a little side lighting in. Oh my God. Crazy news. Absolutely crazy, 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 crazy news. This is great. Yep. So Trump's tariffs just got killed by the Supreme Court. Huge news. This is bad for him. I mean, this is now, the White House has sort of expected this was going to happen, but still, the thing is, Trump has been using the tariffs to basically beat up on the entire world, right? He threatened the European Union again today because he wants them to buy American weapons. Why are you buying European weapons? Buy your American weapons, or I'm going to punish you. Well, among other things, the punishment would be tariffs, just some other stuff too. He's been using tariffs. Trump's tariffs were just struck down by the Supreme Court. He claimed he was going to use the tariff. Oh, hey, guys on Twitch. Hey, Faliev on Twitch. He claimed he was going to do this to he was going to use the tariffs to pay. Remember, he was going to give the farmers $10 billion. He was going to use the tariffs to do that. Oh well. Remember, he was going to give us all that money. That's bullshit. The Supreme Court did not say anything about what happens in terms of refunds. Because keep in mind, a bunch of you and a bunch of American companies have had to pay for these damn tariffs. This was a tax on goods. Put the news up. I'm putting the news up so we can see if there's anything in particular here. No, I'm not putting the wig on right now. The whale. Oh, we got the whale. Sorry, I missed it. I'm thinking the wig. I'm like, why are you asking for the wig? We got the wig, although very timely, the Trump wig. We did get a Trump wig gift, so thank you guys. Thank you, Danette. Yeah, the haircut turned out well. Oh my God, this wig always itches me whenever I put it on, the Trump wig. Hey, Gothic. So Supreme Court rule. Okay, a couple different things here. Supreme Court rules. He does hate America. I agree with you. Although we already knew that. We knew that from the beginning about him. So Supreme Court ruled that 3-1, not 3-1, 6-3. Well, kind of 6-3. Supreme Court ruled 6-3. That, hang on here. Supreme Court ruled 6-3 that Trump's tariffs were illegal. That's good. That means it wasn't really close, which is very good. It was 3 Republican justices joined the 3 Democrats, which is great. The 3 dissenters were pretty much to be expected, Thomas, Alito, and Kavanaugh. As I said, the court did not say anything about what happens to the funds that have already been paid, right? Tariffs are a tax on money, a tax on goods that you and I buy. Either we had to pay the tax, or some people had to pay it themselves. You bought stuff online and then you got a tax bill from the government, or private companies that imported the goods, American companies, had to pay the tax. What happens now is this tax was illegal. So Trump put an illegal tax on goods that we were buying. That means he should have to return the money. Supreme Court did not, which is actually really stupid. They didn't say anything about returning the money. They didn't say, take this off for now. They didn't say either way. Thank you, Aquarius. They didn't say either way whether Trump would have to pay the money back. If he's got to pay the money back, it's very complicated. Very complicated. So let's see. He will throw a tantrum. Yep. This is, this is something that many people expected. But then again, this Supreme Court has been so, ridiculously sycophantic to Trump, sucking up to him left and right, that this is sort of very interesting what will happen now. Returning, it's going to be very difficult. Now, again, the problem is since the Supreme Court did not say that Trump had to return it, it's not clear that he will, right? Trump is going to make them, guarantee you Trump is going to make them, the TikTok trolls are very upset today. I'm not surprised. Thank you, Ash, for showing up. The TikTok trolls are very upset today. Oh, well, sucks to be you. Facebook. Oh, 8 people on Facebook today. Hey, Facebookers. So this is, God, I mean, it's good for the rule of law that the Supreme Court actually occasionally does the right thing. Tariffs, Trump's tariffs have been struck down by the Supreme Court. They're gone. Now, only half the tariffs were under this law, this emergency law. It's not clear it's not clear what happens to the rest of the tariffs and also which tariffs were which. But a lot of the tariffs remember how Trump basically put tariffs on a lot of our allies, countries around the world, for a lot of reasons that were all illegal. Half of them were illegal. He was using a law. Tariffs in general. Tariffs are tax on goods coming into America. Tariffs are taxes that any company or person who imports a foreign good into America, if there is a tariff, you've got to pay the tax. That's often people like you and me. We buy stuff on Temu or whatever the hell it is, or even if it's eBay and it comes from Panama, or it comes from Canada, or an American company like your grocery store that's importing food from Mexico. They pay the tariff, and then they've got to decide, now that the food costs more, they've got to decide if they charge you more. Two recent studies actually, Federal Reserve as well, showed that 90 to 95% of the price of the tariff has been passed along to you and me as higher prices at the grocery store. Thank you, Tarad, for the gift. So basically, these tariffs, we now know. We predicted this, and now we know. 90 to 95% of the tariff has been passed along to you and me as higher prices at the store. So every time you hear about Trump putting a tariff on something, it means it raised the price for you and me by that amount. So if he put a 50% tariff, which he did, on goods from Brazil, coffee from Brazil, that means he raised the price of coffee from Brazil by around 50%, right? I've always got to explain tariffs, though, because I think tariffs are very confusing. Also, Trump and those guys lie left and right? So it's important to, I think, explain to people repeatedly, because he keeps lying and saying, foreigners are paying for it. I got so much money. Now, what happened with this was the Congress is responsible for putting tariffs, for designating tariffs. The president can put tariffs in emergency situations like time of war, right? I don't know, we're at war with Russia and we want to put tariffs on Russian goods or something. Okay, whatever. We're not at war. Only in a quote-unquote national emergency can the president put tariffs himself. What happened was Trump declared everything to be an emergency. First, he said, remember when he put all those crazy tariffs at the beginning of last year? And he said, well, we have a trade deficit. That's an emergency. So I'm putting tariffs. And everybody was like, that's not an emergency. It may not be good. I don't know. It depends what you think. But it's not an emergency. Then he got pissed at Canada and Mexico. Remember? He put tariffs on them. Then he got pissed at Canada again because Canada ran a radio ad with Ronald Reagan in it. He got mad and said, I'm putting more tariffs. Then he got mad at Brazil because Brazil prosecuted their former I always forget. Brazil, it's a president, right? I think Brazil's a president. Their former president, Brazil prosecuted for trying to violently overthrow the government and kill the guy who won. They threw him in jail. Trump got mad. Okay, thanks, S. Trump got mad. And he said, I'm hitting Brazil with a 50% tariff because they convicted their former president of trying to overthrow the government. And you're going, this is literally not an emergency. I mean, you admitted it. What did he do the other day? Oh, he admitted Switzerland had a phone call with the Swiss prime, oh God, whatever the hell they call them in Switzerland. I forget. They're head of the, oh God, in Switzerland it's very complicated. But the Swiss leader had a call with her a year ago. She wasn't very nice to me on the phone. I didn't like her. So I left and I raised her tariffs. He literally admitted every step of the way that these were not emergencies. And under the law, it's got to be an emergency. You are correct, Michael. These were not emergencies. And the Supreme Court stepped in and said, you're right. What happens next is going to be fascinating because, again, the court did not say, what does Trump have to do about the tariffs already paid? He put a tax on American citizens and on American companies that brought in $250 billion from you and me, from Americans. This was a tax on Americans. Actually, this is the way Democrats should be phrasing it. The Supreme Court just gave Americans one of the largest tax cuts in history. That's what we should be calling it, right? The Supreme Court just gave Americans a tax cut. They didn't say Trump had to return the money, which means Trump won't return the money, I think. But how do you get around that? Because what will happen next is people will go to court and say, he taxed us, he put a tariff that was illegal. That means he literally took our money illegally. We've got to get our money back. Now, what'll be interesting to some degree is, will companies like Apple or anybody, will Amazon, will Jeff Bezos want to sue Trump in court to get his money back? Right? I mean, good luck with that. Class action would make the most sense. Yeah, that would make the most sense. I think some of the big companies are going to be like, we don't want to take on Trump. You're right. Costco wouldn't be afraid. Yeah. No, this is exactly. Finally, the Supreme Court did something. We can't trust them in the future to do stuff, but this was good. This was surprisingly good. Surprisingly good. Yeah, the $10 billion he's stealing for his little board of peace. That's a whole other question, right? Wow. Let me see. I'm trying to see what else. Just listening to see if there's any. I don't think there's anything. Well, Kathy, the problem is that was the Republican Supreme Court that just ruled against. Kathy goes, you can't trust a Democrat. Kathy, darling, as Lindsey Graham would say, little lady, you're quoting old troll talking points. We're not talking about Democrats. We're talking about the Republican Supreme Court. I love that. She goes, you can't trust a Democrat. Okay, except this was the Republican Supreme Court that just ruled against Trump and struck down his tariffs. So I guess you mean you can't trust a Republican? That sounds kind of weird. But I love that. I told you, whenever the trolls come, they have talking points that they're given, but the talking points are never aligned with what we're talking about because they were literally given talking points. Anyway, yes, Huckleberry asked a great question. What do you think this will mean with regards to renegotiating with Canada and Mexico this year? This is going to be interesting. So Trump has been putting these fake tariffs on all of these countries for his trade deals, right? Right? Oh, hey, Irene. You shouldn't be watching this, Irene. I don't think you'd like my shows. But the what was I saying? What was I saying with regards to the tariffs? Shoot. What was I saying? Not paying them back. Oh, it was somebody had just said what does this mean for negotiating? So Trump has been using the tariffs as a lever, battering ram, whatever, for negotiations with the European countries, not just on trade, but on a lot of things. Well, this gets interesting because all of a sudden, if you're still negotiating with Trump over trade, he just lost his battering ram, at least as for right now, right? He just lost his leverage, at least in one area, to go after you. Now, the European Union had already reached a deal with Trump, but then they froze it because of the Greenland stuff. So it was going to go through the European Parliament or whatever it is. They put a freeze on it because of the Greenland stuff. Hey, Jens, if I were Europe, I would be tempting. Thank you, Polly. Appreciate that. If I were Europe, I would be tempted to look at the trade deal and say, you know what? I know we already finished negotiating the deal, but you just lost all your leverage with the tariff stuff. I think we need to renegotiate the deal. Now, he would get pissed about renegotiating the deal, but I think you could have countries that already have. First of all, what would Donald Trump do? If Donald Trump reached a deal with your country and your country just lost its leverage, Donald Trump would renegotiate the deal. Donald Trump would say, sure, we signed that deal and it's done, but you know what? You just lost all the leverage you had. I think we're going to open that deal back up. Now, which country is going to have the nerve to do that? Will the European, because this always becomes an issue of, do they want to piss Trump off, right? If Europe decides to renegotiate with Trump, they may get pissed off. Exactly. Irene, we should talk about other stuff. But, so I don't know. That will be an interesting political question for countries around the world if they've already reached a trade deal with Trump, whether they renegotiate it. Let's see. If you have not reached a deal yet, China, this is great for China. This is great for China. Because Trump was supposed to, in principle, go to China in like a couple months. Now China goes, oh, well, guess you thought you had leverage, now you don't. So that's going to be very interesting. As I said, it'll also be interesting to see what happens in terms of whether Trump has to refund the tariffs. Supreme Court said nothing about that. Now, this could help inflation a lot, which is great. I mean, that's one of the ironies here is this could help the economy a lot. So it will help Trump in that way. I'm trying to see here. Just turning up the volume a little. Just repeating what we heard, which is Supreme Court said Trump had no clear authorization to do what he did. Well, this may affect some prices. I mean, look, we know that, as I said, 2 recent studies from Federal Reserve, among others, showed that 95% of the tariff price increases were being passed along to consumers, you and me. So this will help prices. It should help the prices of, actually, here's the problem. It will make it cheaper to build cars in America. Will they pass the price along to you? Look what the airlines do. The airlines raise prices and they never lower them, right? Will companies say, oh, now we don't have to pay as much for coffee from Brazil, let's lower prices? I'm a little worried that greedy companies may still keep their prices high. That's possible. I think companies will start. Oh, they've already started filing lawsuits. I'm sure they will. If I were a company largely affected by tariffs like Costco or somebody, I would have had a lawsuit ready to go. That the second this decision came out, you file it. Oops, I forgot to show the comments on the page. The second this decision comes out, you file it, and you basically file immediately for the court and say we want our money back. Woo, already filed, Gene says. There was some suit a while ago. The only thing is it wouldn't have been germane right now. It wouldn't have been smart to file a lawsuit to get the tariff money refunded until the tariffs were struck down. Because otherwise, the court would say, well, your lawsuit isn't germane. I mean, there is no refund. There is no, the tariffs are still in power, right? So the tariffs would have to be struck down first before you could file a lawsuit. Should be. Anyway, I mean, could be inflationary if the money gets returned, maybe. Oh, Costco filed today, get out of here. Oh, that's funny. Let me look and see. I'm trying to look and see. Yeah, no tariff checks. Well, I mean, you weren't getting the tariff check anyway, right? We know that. I'm trying to find some other analyses here of what else we know. Let me see here. See here. What is this? Oh, God, that idiot. I'm just looking here. Oh, that senator from Ohio, Bernie Moreno, who's the one who was Colombian and he's kind of like he's like an arch American now, arch conservative American. He's very upset and says, we have to pass legislation now codifying Trump's tariffs and putting them back in place. And the Democrats are all online going, please do. right? With the election coming up, we want a Republican Congress to pass massive tax hikes on American citizens across the spectrum. So this is brilliant. I mean, anyway, great news. Donald Trump just got screwed today by the Supreme Court. Rare. It happens occasionally, not nearly enough. But that's great. Looking here, let me see what else here. He could always invade. I think Iran, the Iran attack is more likely now, because of this. Let me see here. I'm trying to find, I don't think there's really analysis yet of this. 6-3 ruling. Let me see here. 6-3 ruling against Trump, which means 3 conservative justices joined the 3 liberal justices to rule against him. Now, here's one guy writing, tariff refunds. Supreme Court did not clarify eligibility on refunds. It appears lower courts will need to do that. Why is this important? I think between 100 to 130 billion in refunds is likely. When one thinks about the fiscal tailwind that may inject 100 to 150 billion in cash to American households this year, in addition to tariff refunds, we are talking real money, perhaps close to 1/4. So that's what you were talking about. This could be real money injected back into American houses and American businesses. That could be good for the economy. It's also inflationary, ironically. But getting rid of the tariffs will help lower inflation. So it's a very economically hard to know what the economic impact will be. Let me say here. Now, that's a good point. That's a good point. A woman at the Brookings institution just said, good argument. She said, I regret to inform you that most of these tariffs are going nowhere. Anyone who watches Trump's knows he will just illegally reimpose most of the tariffs under one of the other tariff sections and then wait a year for the courts to litigate it. In other words, he'll just keep breaking the law. He'll find, he already broke the law here, and it took a year. He's been in power for a year and a month. It took a year for the courts to strike down his tariffs that were illegal on their face, right? He used the law illegally and put tariffs. He's just going to find another provision of law, put more illegal tariffs in place. And then, now, what would be interesting to me is, it'd be interesting to see if the courts, if he does this again and finds another area of the law and imposes tariffs, if a lower court says, we're staying the tariffs, in other words, we're putting the tariffs on hold, they recognize what he's doing. I don't know if they'll get away with that, though. I don't know. So that is always a problem with Trump, right? This is what worries me with the, TikTok doesn't like us mentioning this word. It's a dirty word. This is what worries me about the November party we'll be having in the first Tuesday of November when we all get together and write little names on pieces of paper, that he could do a lot of illegal things that day to try to stop people from partying, and we'd have to go to court to stop him. But that would take several hours to go to court to stop him. And, for example, the National Guard or ICE could already go to those party centers where we go and write names down on paper in early November. ICE goes there for 4 hours and scares people away. Court can't rectify that once it happens. And the court says, don't do it. And he goes, okay. And then an hour later, he does it again. And then you got to go back to court to stop him again, right? That's the problem with this. Oh, actually, Mike, you'd be wrong. Mike says only Democrats cheat in elections. In fact, what we have found repeatedly is nobody cheats in American elections. There have been literally an infinitesimally small amount of cheating at all in American elections. It literally doesn't happen. But 2, a lot of times when it happens, it's Republicans. What we found in the 2020 election, they did, Trump, as you know, had a lot of lawsuits and a lot of recounts, and they found a number of Republicans voting illegally, but they didn't make a difference because it was 4 Republicans. It didn't matter. It didn't make a difference to the election, but it was Republicans. If any of you out there, Google and check, you will find that we do not have illegal voting in this country to any significant degree. There was a study done by the Heritage Foundation, the MAGA Heritage Foundation, that found in Pennsylvania, for example, they looked at the last 30 years of voting in Pennsylvania, and they looked at 100 million ballots, and they found 39 instances of people registering to vote who shouldn't have been registered to vote. 39 out of 100 million. That means zero impact on the election. It also means nobody, one a year. One a year in Pennsylvania. One illegal vote a year, or one illegal registration. They didn't necessarily even vote. So, yeah. Doesn't exist in America. Wow, 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 wow. Let me look here and see what else we got here. Let me see. Just looking for more news on this. So big news. We're on TikTok. Hello, TikTok, YouTube, Substack, everybody else. We're talking about the fact that Donald Trump's tariffs just got cut down. Sass asks, could Trump push tariffs through Congress before the elections? Yes, that's what some Republicans are talking about. And the Democrats online are basically saying, do you promise? Do you promise to put a massive tax hike on Americans before the election? Promise, promise, promise. So the Democrats are saying, go for it. Pass it through Congress. And not only will it piss off Americans across the board, but then you would have Republican members of Congress having to go on the record either disagreeing with Donald Trump, which gets them in trouble with their own voters, or agreeing with Donald Trump to raise taxes on Americans right before the election, which means voters in the middle will lose it, will absolutely lose it. This is good. This is very good. Let me see. Let's see. Trying to see what else here. 6-3 ruling, which is great. 3 Republicans, 3 Democrats. I'm trying to find some good analysis. This is going to take a bit of time here. Come on, yeah. Ooh, crazy day here. Grocery prices. The problem is I don't know whether this is going to, I mean, look, this should affect coffee prices, but part of the problem becomes, even though this struck down Trump's 50% tariff on Brazil, or I think it did. And the tariff on Brazil, we get 1/3 of our coffee from Brazil. That means a huge price increase on our coffee. We're going to go live tonight. Yep. Thank you, Mario. It's not clear that companies will lower their prices. Couldn't you imagine the coffee companies now saying, ooh, Trump's tariff was killed. That's great. But let's keep our prices the way they are because now we make even more money. Now we're paying less for the coffee and we're still charging $15 for a small bag, right? That's the, I'm sure, Jens, that's the risk here, is that companies say, we're not going to lower our prices. You know, that worries me. Just seeing what else we've got here. Mike Pence, Trump's former vice president. Today's 6-3 ruling by the Supreme Court is a victory for the American people and a win for the separation of powers enshrined in the Constitution. Our Supreme Court has reaffirmed that the Constitution grants Congress, not the president, the power to tax. American families and American businesses pay American tariffs, not foreign countries. With this decision, American families and businesses can breathe a sigh of relief. Wow. Good for him. And he called it a tax, which it is. I mean, hey, Karen. So very interesting. What's here? Let's look in here. Come on. I can pull up one of the other articles. I'm trying to see what the analysis is here. Rahm, I don't think Rahm would have a good analysis. I'm trying to find some of the lawyers to see what... I was on SCOTUS blog. They were doing a blow-by-blow, but they didn't really get into detail. Shoot, I'm trying to find who's got a good... Who else out there, guys? SCOTUS blog? Like, who else would have a good analysis of this? I'm trying to find... I mean, I can look at the newspapers, but the newspapers, it's just kind of, kind of quick. I could go to New York Times, but I want to find some of the legal blogs and see what they're saying. Well, let's see what the Supreme Court says really quick. Supreme Court dealt New York Times. Supreme Court dealt a major blow to President Trump's economic policy on Friday, ruling that he had exceeded his authority when he imposed tariffs on nearly every U.S. trading partner. The 6-3 decision has significant implications for the economy and consumers. The federal government has collected more than $200 billion in tariffs since the start of this year, start of last year. Before the decision, the administration had said that a loss in this case could force the government to unwind trade deals with other countries and potentially pay hefty refunds. Trump called the decision a disgrace. Potential refunds. Anticipating the decision, companies have hired lawyers, filed lawsuits, and submitted claims in hopes of securing refunds on the tariffs. The justices struck down Trump's use of emergency powers to impose many of his tariffs, saying he could not use a decades-old law to tax imports. Let's see here. Looking here. No, this is good news. Finally, somebody stood up to the guy. President of the European Parliament's delegation for relations with the U.S. just said this is a signal of hope and vitality in the systems of checks and balances that characterizes American democracy. Very true. Very true on that front. The U.S. Treasury has taken in about $240 billion in tariffs. Research firm Capital Economics estimated that if the Treasury is forced to issue refunds, the cost would run about $120 billion. I love this. Kavanaugh warned that if there have to be refunds, it would be a mess. I love when people make those arguments. It's the same argument ICE is making about warrants. They're saying like, oh, do they need real warrants in order to arrest you or break into your home? And the Republicans have been saying, it would be hard. It would be a mess if we required law enforcement to get a real judicial warrant to break into your home. Yeah, I guess it would be hard. Yeah. That's too bad. You know, like if you want to break down the door of my house, maybe you should have to follow the constitutional rules to do it. And if you want to break down the door of thousands of houses around the country, yeah, it's going to take you some time to go to court to get the judicial orders. Sorry. And this reminds me of the same thing. Kavanaugh saying, and the administration said this too, it would be chaos if we had to give back all the money we stole from American consumers and American companies. Yeah, I guess it would be. But if you don't require the money to be refunded because it's too chaotic, it's too messy to give it back, then what that tells future governments is make sure when you steal money from the American people, you make it as confusing and messy as possible. Because if you make it messy enough, the courts will say you don't have to give the money back, right? That's what and that would be my argument in court, would be saying, Your Honor, we literally are sending a message to governments that you need to steal the money and make it as messy as, steal as much money as you can, because the more money you steal, the harder it is to return it all, and the court will say, oh, it's okay, you can keep it because it's too hard. Yeah. There is no it's too hard exemption to the U.S. Constitution and the rule of law. Oh, this is interesting. New York Times. Many U.S. importers have kept meticulous records in anticipation of submitting those requests if a court ruling allowed them to pursue tariff refunds. Oh, that's interesting, too. Will consumers see any of that money given that they ultimately paid a significant portion of it? Now, there's a good point, too. We're the ones who paid the money. We paid for it with a higher price at the grocery store, for example, and the higher price when we bought cars. So these companies get the money back, but we're the ones who actually paid the tariff. According to New York Times experts, will consumers see the money? Probably not. Companies are not likely to issue refunds or lower prices, but they may hold off on price increases they had planned for this year. How obnoxious. So the Supreme Court is saying, the experts are saying, companies will probably not lower prices at all for any of us, but maybe they won't raise prices again for another year. And we paid the money. You and I paid the money for these tariffs. We're the ones who paid them. We don't, and these companies are suing to get the money back, which is actually even more obnoxious. They're suing to get the money back, the money that we paid with our taxes, and they're going to get the money back. And they're not going to lower money for us. Wow. So, yeah, Supreme Court struck down Trump's tariffs. Ha ha. Let me see here. I'm looking at more. Oh, that's good. What else here? Sorry, guys. I'm looking at New York Times to see what the economic analysts are saying about the tariffs. The White House says it plans to replace the tariffs that were struck down with other duties using more clear cut authorities. Bullshit. More clear cut. If it was more clear cut, they would have used it from the beginning, right? That's the thing. Oh, well, we're gonna put tariffs with much more clear cut authority next time. But again, if it was much more clear cut, you would have done it already anyway. Um, However, those legal provisions usually require the U.S. Trade Representative to undertake an investigation and only apply to certain sectors. Trump has been using emergency tariffs as a cudgel. Countries that displeased him for any reason, including Brazil, on the justification that the government was persecuting a political ally. Losing that authority deprives Trump of a powerful point of leverage and a tool of retaliation. That's great. This is great. No, this is very good. Stocks rose slightly following the Supreme Court decision. Kimberly Klossing, a professor of tax law and policy at UCLA School of Law. The strength of the president's tariff cudgel is diminished. Governments abroad and businesses at home can both expect somewhat less mercurial U.S. tariff processes. European Union's official response is muted. We take note of the ruling by the U.S. Supreme Court and are analyzing it carefully. We remain in close contact with the U.S. administration as we seek clarity on the steps they intend to take in response to this ruling. So the EU doesn't know what the hell they're going to say in response to this at this point. That's interesting. Yeah, EU's not sure what to say because they don't want to piss Trump off, basically. This is good. I'm trying to see what else here. What else? So yes, breaking news is the Supreme Court has struck down Trump's tariffs. He imposed them illegally, which we all knew, but glad the court finally saw that as well. 6-3 decision, 3 Republicans, 3 Democrats. Very interesting. What else we got? Let's see. Interesting. Raphael Bostic. Oh, hang on. A lot of the Canadian tariffs will remain in place, she said. Wait, let me go back. That was weird what she said. Let's go back a second. Hang on. Let's see what she said about Canada again. Saying that although Canada has concluded the best trade agreement with the United States among all its trading partners, we recognize that there is still much to be done to support businesses and workers. Pam, I want to point out that that trade agreement between Mexico, Canada, and the United States up for review this year, that is the negotiation that everyone is looking towards. And more than that, Pamela, these emergency tariffs that the Supreme Court essentially knocked down do not really get to the heart of the sectoral tariffs, those on steel, those on aluminum, those on lumber, that the steel, aluminum, lumber that are still imposed on Canada. Significant tax for American consumers. Those are the so-called sectoral tariffs that Canada will be working. So the correspondent on CNN is saying that those Canadian tariffs I just mentioned are not affected by this. So he must have done them in some different way. Interesting. Okay. Huh. Interesting. Oops. Sorry. Let's see. Oops. Sorry. Keep going.
Trade deal with China. Does this ruling today by the U.S. Supreme Court?
This really screws Trump with China too.
Tariff threats, including raising these tariffs against Canada.
It weakens the position of the administration, if
Oh.
only because it makes
Former Canadian Deputy Prime Minister.
our competency of the Congress.
Yeah, I want my tariff check. Like Donna said on West Wing, I want my check. Where's my money? Where's my money? Where's my money? Well, I mean, hold on a second. Hold on a second. Let me do this. Let me see 1 second. How much money would that be? How much money would this be? Hang on.
That are not affected by this decision today by the Supreme Court.
All right, divided by, oops. Yeah, okay. Um, oh, sorry you missed me. I was here. Um, just reading here. Oh, that's right. He's noting the. So another study found that each American household paid $1,000 last year more because of Trump's tariffs, and this year the number was going up to, I believe, $1,300 per household. That's another $1,000 you all had to pay last year per household because of Donald Trump's tariffs because he raised prices that much. Um, oh, this is, Trump learned of the Supreme Court decision Friday morning while he was meeting with the nation's governors in the East Room of the White House. During the meeting, Trump was handed a piece of paper alerting him to the decision. He called the decision a disgrace and criticized the court. He then took a question from Governor Josh Stein of North Carolina about hurricane assistance. He gave a brief answer and said he needed to leave to address the Supreme Court decision, abruptly ending the meeting. He's not very happy. Oh, well. What else? I know Eric Dane passed away. That was sad. I knew him from West Wing, from Charmed, and then Grey's Anatomy. Yeah, he had cancer too. The poor guy. He had like cancer. I think it was. Wasn't it cancer? I think it was cancer. Back in like 2008, of all things, and then was like cured. No, he had cancer first. No. He had cancer back in 2008, the poor guy. Then he got ALS too. That's what I'm saying. Imagine beating cancer and then you get ALS. Oh yeah. I think it was, I looked, it was a testicular. Yeah. I mean, horrible. Because he was really looking bad. I don't remember if it must have been the Grey's Anatomy time. Remember like towards the end, either towards the end or in pictures, he was super skinny and gaunt, and everybody was like, what's wrong with him? He had cancer. Beat the cancer, and then 15 years later, he gets ALS. I mean, crazy. Just crazy. Horrible. I mean, a horrible disease, obviously. Oh, my God. And the poor guy was diagnosed a little over a year ago. I mean, a little over a year ago, and that was it. Oh, yeah. Oh, no. So yeah, he was Jason Dean on Charmed, Phoebe's boyfriend, who we all loved, who was the one who moved to Asia, the big international businessman, and then became the doctor on Grey's Anatomy, who was amazing. I knew him from those two shows. Yeah, just crazy. Ugh. Yeah. No, horrible. I mean, horrible story. Oh, there's a documentary. McSteamy, exactly. What, McDreamy and McSteamy, exactly. Ugh. Colorectal? I don't think that's what he had before, was it? Let me see. I looked it up yesterday, and now I'm forgetting what it was. Of course, then you look him up and you get the ALS stuff. Colorectal, was it really? That's, all right, I just want to double check it, but it keeps, and the AI keeps fact checking me like you guys did. That's not the point. He did have cancer. No. So no, this is on Instagram. You can't trust anybody on Instagram. Oh my God. Colorectal? Oh, AP. There you go. I think AP is saying colorectal. I don't remember that that's what it was. Wow. Hang on a second. Yeah, I think AP is agreeing with you. Um, um, ah, come on. Come on. That's a long story. Oh my God, I can't even find it in here. Hold on. This is driving me bonkers here. Find in page. Dog wants water, of course. I think the dog can just tell when I'm on with you guys. You know what I mean? She's like, no, it's not even in the story. Unbelievable. It's not in the AP story. Anyway, I believe you, but it's not in the AP story. So, where's my ChatGPT? Oh my God, you drive me crazy, ChatGPT. One moment. Actor Eric Dane has just died from ALS, but he had cancer way back in like 2008 or so. Do a search for me and find a credible source that says what kind of cancer he had.
In 2008, Eric Dane had a lesion on his lip that was identified as malignant tissue caused by sun damage, but his representatives clarified that he did not have cancer. It was treated with topical methods, and there was no public indication of a cancer diagnosis. More recently, however, he publicly announced that he had ALS.
Okay, that's interesting because I remember it being a little more than that. And it wasn't just a lesion on his lip that got removed, and he lost a horrific amount of weight at the time. Horrific amount of weight. That's interesting. That's interesting. Yeah, maybe. Maybe. I remember, yeah, maybe. Yeah. No, I'd read about it because I remember I was a big fan. I remember reading and going, oh my God. And he looked horrible. He lost so much weight. It was terrible. I mean, something was wrong. The amount of weight he lost, something was very wrong. Oh, no. He lost this weight back in like 2008, 2010. When, I don't even know when it was. Horrific amount. I mean, it was not, oh God, Smirconish? Seriously? Who the hell cares what he thinks? Got to be kidding. I think that's Smirconish. Why would anybody care what he thinks? They're so weird when they do this. They get like people who, I think that's him, isn't it? Yeah. Nobody cares. There we go. Nobody cares what he thinks. Ah! There we go. Nobody cares what he thinks. Anyway, yeah, I just don't. I don't understand him. I never knew who he was. I don't understand why he has a TV show or did on CNN. Like, and he's weighing in on the tariffs. Who cares? I think because they couldn't get other expert guests. So they went. I mean, who are they going to have next? Van Jones? You know what I mean? Like, let's have somebody else I don't care about weigh in on the tariffs. Yeah, New York Times, a trio of conservative justices on Friday warned that the court had overstepped its bounds in its decision to block President Trump's tariffs. In a 63-page dissent written by Kavanaugh, who was joined by Thomas and Alito, the dissenters raised concerns that this decision would lead to chaos, at least in the short term, as importers who have already paid the tariffs seek refunds. Oh my God! You mean there were so many victims that it's going to be chaotic if we try to have restitution for the victims? Yeah. So we shouldn't make the victims whole again because Trump had so many victims of his tariff policy. I mean, that's what I mean. This is the legal argument. Trump had so many victims of his tariff policy that we should just let it stand because it would be too many people we'd have to make whole again who he injured. So the lesson there would be make sure you injure as many people as possible. So the Supreme Court says, you injured too many people. It would be too hard to fix it. Really. The United States may be required to refund billions of dollars to importers who paid the tariffs, even though some importers may have already passed on costs to consumers or others, wrote Kavanaugh. Yeah. These tariffs, anyway, oh my God. U.S. Trade Representative told New York Times in an interview last month that the administration has lots of other ways they can have tariffs. Among the options are Section 232, which allows the government to impose tariffs on certain sectors in the interest of national security. Okay, same problem. It's not national security when you say, I didn't like the lady who was running Switzerland because she's a girl and she made me mad. So I put tariffs. That's not national security. It's not national security when you say, well, Brazil put in prison the guy who was my friend. Thank you, Blue. That's not national security. I think the same problem happens here. Section 301, which allows tariffs to be imposed for unfair trade practices. Okay, but again, Canada played a Ronald Reagan ad on the radio is not an unfair trade practice. Yeah, I don't think so. Yeah. I mean, he's gonna, right? He's gonna do this anyway. Trump will reimpose tariffs. They'll be illegal. He's not gonna care. So that is true. I mean, that is true, and that is a problem, right? You know, he's gonna just do it and say, go back to the courts and, you know, la, 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 right? Anyway, the breaking news, Doug, is that the U.S. Supreme Court has struck down Donald Trump's tariffs, woo-woo, as illegal, and now it's mayhem for Trump. It's going to call into practice or call into question what happens with the various trade deals, which should be quite fun. Ha ha! So be right back. That's right. Yeah, I'm gonna call it quits in a minute. I wanted to come live and talk about this, but I'll call it quits in a minute. But very interesting stuff today. Wow. Wow, 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 wow. And I'll post the video. YouTube will already have this video. I'll post it on Substack when I'm done. Yes, I can post it on Substack when I'm done. So you guys will be able to look at it later. Anyway, la 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 la. So very good. Exactly, Mackenzie. Right, your Turkish rug was a matter of national security. He's gonna try to find other ways of doing this. And this is the problem: is our system is slow. You know. Yes, Sass. So Trump. Quick. Well, we'll talk about that tonight. We'll talk. Let's do tariffs now. We'll talk about it tonight. All right, guys. I think we're done with the tariff stuff. The other topics we'll talk about this evening. I've got my regular show, 6 o'clock Eastern time tonight. So join us on TikTok, YouTube, Substack, Discord, Instagram, etc., LinkedIn. And we'll have our regular show, 6 o'clock Eastern time US. So let's see. I don't think this is a distraction. This is a Supreme Court decision. I mean, it's not like Trump, you know, made the Supreme Court decision happen. This is a major Supreme Court decision. It's a big deal. Thanks, Jason. It's a big deal. It's big news that Trump got shot down. That's great. And we'll see. Of course, it takes away from Epstein because it's other big news, but Trump just had a huge loss in the Supreme Court. That's good for America. That's big news. So it's a good thing. Our system does need to go faster. But yes, he will use other sections is what they're saying, law. Yep. Well, that's the problem. I mean, it's fine. A real quick thing, but Chad was saying, kind of wild that conservatives used to be very against tariffs. You know, this is one of my big problems with Trump is he doesn't believe in anything. That's the first thing. He just does what he wants. He's not a Republican or a Democrat. He's just an angry guy. What really annoys me, though, is how many Republicans just went along with it. Where, I mean, I used to be a Republican. The idea of sucking up to Putin and turning on NATO and turning on countries that Putin's invading, right? Kicking out people here seeking asylum from Iran and sending them back, which Trump is doing. I mean, stuff that's unimaginable. Even, I mean, in general, turning your back on NATO, unbelievable. Sucking up to Putin, unbelievable. I mean, the number of things, the spending, you know, Republicans always talk about not being big, like, oh, they want to cut the budget and, you know, get spending under control, and then they spend like drunken sailors on tax cuts. So on that one, I'm not surprised that they're not doing anything about Trump spending like a drunken sailor. But and the God stuff is intriguing to me because you'd think the religious right would have some issues with Trump being, you know, maybe one commandment he hasn't broken, maybe. Right, but that we know of, but yeah. So that I'm not surprised anymore that there's nothing these guys believe in. It does still scare me as a country because if most Republicans don't believe in anything and don't believe in anything they say, then just that they're willing to go along with like a cult leader who could do really dangerous things. And the GOP voters are no longer a check and balance on Republican extremism itself. or not even Republican extremism in their own party like this, because they don't care. They're willing to go along with the cult. And Democrats might do the same if they got, because I think this is a human thing. We now know America is not exempt from going along with cult leaders who are a little fascist. That's very scary. And again, I think Democrats might do it too, because I think this is a human thing, unfortunately. But right now it's Republicans. So, all right, I'm going to sign off, guys. Thank you, everybody. All right, signing off Discord. I will see you guys tonight, 6 o'clock Eastern. But very good news. All right, see you, Discord. All right, you all, actually Instagram, I will sign off in a second with you. All right, TikTok, you're last. YouTube and everybody else, goodbye.